Hi, this is Barb Crowley, and welcome to Metaphysics of View Through the Veil. Today we're talking to Rieka Moonsong. Rieka is a Wiccan high priestess training to become clergy. She is also an Andean tradition trained shaman and considers herself to be a shamanic witch. She is a published author of magical books, including cat magic, animal magic, owl magic, and sea magic. And we're going to talk about them today. She also writes for the Witches magazine and Witchology. Witchology. I like that word. Hey, thanks so much for being on the show. I really enjoy it and appreciate hearing more about Wicca and witchcraft because I don't know about it. But I want to start with, what is Andean tradition trained shaman?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Barb. I appreciate you having me on your podcast here. It's just I'm very blessed to have gotten the notification that the interview of the
Yeah,
podcast.
and we got it from the West Coast, and we actually are about 2 miles apart,
Right, it's
which
crazy
is,
how that works.
yeah, wild. Yeah.
Um, so Andean trained a long time ago when the actually Spanish conquistadors were coming into South America. The shamans, the Caro people, they went up into the mountains to try to avoid the conquistadors. These people were living there for years.
Were they in
Finally,
South America or North
South America,
South America?
in
Yeah.
Peruvian
Mhm.
area,
Okay.
and other places in there, but they went up into the mountains to live their lives. Eventually, they started to come down, deciding they were told by spirit that they needed to share their knowledge and everything. So that is how these shamans began to train other people and to spread
Mhm.
that shamanic knowledge, how we heal ourselves. And part of their, philosophy is that as we heal ourselves, we help to heal the world.
Mhm.
'Cause, I'm not putting my trauma out there on other people, and same thing as it goes around you. It's that domino effect that happens. You
Mhm.
can get to one person, and then they get to one person, and it trickles down the line.
And then
Um,
as you're healthy, your vibration heals others,
exactly,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so our lineage of our shamanic, so I have shamanic teachers that were here in Colorado that trained from someone who actually trained from a shaman in Peru. So
Mhm.
that lineage actually does come from the Peruvian area.
Mhm.
It's not just, the term shaman does get thrown around out there a lot.
It
Um,
does. Yeah, it does. So I get leery sometimes. What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, it does get thrown around a lot. And yes, anyone can walk that path. So a shaman is not a religion, it's not a tradition, it is just a
Practice.
way of walking. It's a practice, it's a way of walking with one, with the earth, with spirit, all of that. It's a healing practice. It's healing ourselves, it's healing other people. But it's not, so someone can be like, one of my teachers considers himself a Buddhist, but he's a shaman.
Yeah. Got it.
It's not, like I said, anything particular like that. And when you put
Well,
that aspect with the witchcraft,
that's what I was
it's
going to ask. Yeah.
with the guides. So shamanic witch, a lot of witchcraft, they don't necessarily get too heavy into animal guides, animal messages, and things like that. But that is actually very big in the shamanic practice. When we call the
Mhm.
directions, we are calling in certain animals that reside in those directions. And the same thing for my tradition, my Wiccan tradition, is that we are shamanic witches. Even without my shamanic training, we are
Mhm.
shamanic witches because we call animal guides in with each direction. It's the same one each time, and they all mean something. So that bringing that animal magic, that animal guide spirit into that direction for healing purposes, for power, for energy, that is what makes it a shamanic practice, a shamanic witch. And then I
So,
combine both of my practices.
yeah, and I tend to think a witch is almost shamanic, but shamanic is a higher level or more
Just
more
different.
trained or something. Is
Just
that
different.
true or very different?
I think that they're just different because
Yeah.
again, witchcraft, well, shamans work with herbal medicine and plant
Uh-huh.
medicine. And when we say plant medicine or animal medicine, it's not necessarily even working directly with that, let's say, herb. Doesn't mean you have to ingest that herb to get
Mhm.
its benefits. It's the energy of that herb.
Right.
Witchcraft is more spells, rituals,
Okay. Yeah.
things like that, as opposed to a shamanic thing that doesn't really get into rituals and things like that. It's more of an energetic thing, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
How did you become a witch or become involved in a witch or now Wiccan and witch? I think of Wiccan as witch light. Is that
So,
wrong or
so Wiccan is actually a religion. It is, I don't want to say worship because we don't worship deity.
Mhm.
But there are deities, some of them use different pantheons, whatnot. Ours are more like Celtic, for example, but it is considered a religion. God and goddess, some follow just specific, like the Dianic. Wiccan follow just goddess. Ours brings in both masculine and feminine deities. Um, Witchcraft is just the practice of witchcraft. So you can be Wiccan without being a witch, and you can practice witchcraft without being a Wiccan. The two do not necessarily go hand in hand. Are there a lot of Wiccans who practice witchcraft? Yes. Are there a lot of witches who are Wiccan? Yes. But you do not have to be one to be the other.
Mhm.
It's not synonymous.
Oh, okay. And how did you get into it?
Um, so I've always been a magical person. I just didn't know what to call it. So I've always seen spirits, entities, hear them. Um, Animal guides have always appeared to me. And as a child, I didn't realize I'm not necessarily seeing it with my eyes. I'm seeing it more with my third eye.
Mhm.
And it was always difficult to kind of, figure that out. I didn't have anyone that was teaching me or, telling me, yes, this is, what this is. The fae, angels, all that. It's always been all around me. Again, I just didn't know what to call it.
Mhm.
As I got older, it wasn't okay in society, especially where I was growing up, to be that magical person. So I learned real quick to close my mouth. You just don't
Yeah.
talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
As I got older, spirit kept saying, hey, you don't get to ignore that part. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
no, no, you don't exist. But
Really? You're
it
my
kept coming
imagination.
back.
Don't talk to me.
Yeah, don't talk to me. It
Yeah.
kept coming back, and then finally there were people who would come into my life and be like, "Hey, let me talk to you about tarot," and I'd get all excited, but then realize like, okay, that's not for right now. I had to put it away again.
Mhm.
And then finally, when my ex-husband and I split, I was like, okay, now I get to be who I truly am. One of
Mhm.
the first things I did was go and look for a coven. I was on, it doesn't exist now, but it was Witchvox at the time.
Mhm.
And I was looking through it and just felt something that felt right. I contacted them, met with them, and that was the end of the story. I was initiated into the group, and it was like coming home,
What did you
truly.
have to do to be initiated? We'll get to your books too, but I want to,
No, no, no.
because I don't know very much about witchcraft. I kind of do
Actually,
and kind of don't.
well, actually, that part of our practice is oath bound, so I can't discuss it.
Oh, okay.
It's different things for different groups. Sometimes it's just simply you find a group of people that you work with and you're like, hey, you guys want to do ritual together? Sure.
Mhm.
Our tradition does require coming into the group. There is a ritual that is initiation into that.
Mhm.
We actually have lesson work that we
Okay,
do.
so there's a level of training as well.
Yes, we are
Yeah.
absolutely trained various different things in the lesson. Again, all that oath bound, so I can't discuss it.
Mhm.
Um, But there are levels. You come in as a dedicant, and then you get your first degree, and that is another ritual to get that elevation. And then you get your second degree, and then you get your third degree. To obtain that third degree, there is a big test based on all the knowledge you've learned over this time.
Yeah.
And then, once you pass that, you get the elevation to your third degree, and then you get your clergy papers. So once you get those clergy papers, you are a member of that religious community that can go out and do hand fastings, which are like marriage ceremonies. You can do wiccanings, which are like christenings, and you can give death rites.
And you can what?
Give death rites.
Oh, okay.
So it's like last rites that
in
the
Catholic Church,
tradition.
yeah.
So those are things, you actually have clergy papers. So you are a member of the Wiccan clergy. So that's that training.
Now you moved from another state to Colorado. Yeah. How did you have to then find another group or start another group, or did you keep up with your own group?
That was what I found here in Colorado. So I've only been practicing.
Oh, I
since I've been
see.
here
I
in Colorado.
misunderstood. Yeah, I thought you had
Yeah.
studied in your. So you're right here. And how
Yep.
long have you been doing it?
With them actually getting into this group since 2017 is when I first met with them. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. And now you're training to become clergy.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. But you would still stay within the group.
Yes.
Yeah. How big is the group?
Well, the group as itself is nationwide.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And there's even members that are in Europe and whatnot. Our little group, we have 5 of us now. We're getting ready to bring someone else into that.
To keep it at 6. You want it at 6, right?
The groups can grow. There's no set number of how many people you can have in there. It's just, what you feel comfortable with. We are all, it is a teaching tradition.
Right.
So we do take on students and we bring them in and, go through all the process with them. So we are considered, students until we get that high, that third degree. But I mean, in reality, we're students of life and, practice forever. But yes.
So you're looking to bring in somebody else now to train into your, yeah. Okay, now how did you get to, so you were first a witch and then shaman? Or did you do it at the same time?
No. So, I've been doing it at the same time. So someone that was in our group who is no longer here was one of my shamanic teachers. They started a practice. They had their teachers, so they created, the shamanism group, and they were doing the teaching. It's called Walking the Medicine Wheel. And that is sitting in those directions I talked about earlier, and, sitting with each of those animal guides and learning the ways and going through different healing practices and meditations and whatnot. But so that was, I think I had to have started that in 2019 because we ended up having to finish it up over Zoom meetings because the pandemic happened. So I finished that up in summer of 2020.
Now, here's a big question. How did life change for you from the time that you started studying witchcraft and then again, the time that you started to study shamanic, Andean shamanic tradition? Andean, yes.
Yeah, Andean.
Got it.
Right. It changed everything. It opened me up to who I truly was. It healed me in ways that I didn't know were possible.
Did you know that you needed to be healed?
On some levels, yes. I knew about some of, childhood traumas that had come to light. Things that had happened with my ex-husband and, so much past life traumas, things that I didn't even know, I wasn't aware of, that were coming, and like, oh, hey, you need to work on you're dealing with this now in this lifetime because of something that happened in the previous lifetime.
Right.
So all of that stuff, I just, like I said, I healed in ways I didn't know were possible, ways that I didn't even know that I needed. And I began to live life more authentically. I just, it took me a couple of years before I was really what I call out of the broom closet. Because you don't always know how it's going to be received,
Right.
but now I'll wear my moon earrings, and most days I have my pentacle on, and if
Hmm.
somebody looks at me sideways, I'm like, that's on you, it's not on me.
Right. Right.
And
And
um
Colorado's pretty wide open.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it
Thank
also
God.
gave me the tool, yeah, gave me the tools to be able to help other people too, and
Hmm.
open up more. And you think everything that I've gone through until this point, if my lessons, my life lessons, all the heartache, all the things, if I can take that and transform it into something that can help someone, and if I
Hmm.
just reach one person, everything, it's been worth it.
Yeah.
And those are some of the lessons that came out of that is, and then I learned, I'm a teacher. That's part of my purpose here in life, is to spread that knowledge and wisdom and things, the animals that come to me with messages and as guides, to be able to show others how to do that, how to connect. It's, that level of teaching. That's so part of my life purpose has come out of this too.
Hmm. Which is great because so many of
Mhm.
us wander through and never
Yeah,
quite find that purpose. You know,
exactly.
usually what's sitting right in front of you. I know.
Oh, it's so simple.
Da- And when did your writing career start?
Oh,
Or did it start with journaling? Just to,
I've, well, I guess I could say way back in like second or third grade, I won a creative writing award.
oh,
Um,
wow. So it was always part of you.
it wasn't, I've always journaled, I've
Yeah.
written poetry and just little things, but that was always for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then a relationship that I was in after my divorce, he was, he did writing for like websites and like he was a content writer essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed help with like writing blogs for like a bunch of different websites.
Right.
And I think I had started a blog at that point. He was like, wow, you were a really good writer. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
think of it along those lines. He was like, would you be interested in like ghostwriting for me? So I just started hammering out all of these
Yeah.
little blog articles on things that interested me that they needed for these things. And it relit a fire that I had kind of forgotten about.
Wow.
Um, and with the blog and things like that. And my publisher found me based on a hashtag. One
Really?
had, yeah. So
So
one
you
had
didn't
on,
go to a publisher, they came to you.
well, one came to me prior to the one that I'm currently working with.
Who are you with
They came,
now? Just
it's
I
Quarto, Quarto, like Fort
okay.
and then O, Quarto.
Yeah.
So another publisher had come to me based on my blog.
Mm-hmm.
And we were working some things out, and the things, it just wasn't meshing. It kind of wasn't a meant to be thing, but
Didn't, yeah, it didn't work. Yeah.
got me kind of started like, oh, this could be a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then literally just a couple of weeks after this other publisher had contacted me, a lady contacted me from Quarto and was like, hey, we want to write a cat magic book. Would you be interested? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. And so all these ideas just started flowing,
Yeah.
and it was one of those, just all the stars kind of aligning and coming together with,
Mm-hmm. You got
this is what you're
supported.
supposed
You
to
got
be doing.
support. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both
So I knew
sides of the veil. Yeah.
it was always something I was meant to do. It just, everything had to line up at the right time and all of that
Mhm.
stuff. So
Right.
yeah.
But
Yeah. So
you're not doing it full time. You do a regular job too.
yes, I do have a regular job. I would love to write full time.
Hmm.
I think so many of the other things that I could be writing are a lot of like my ex, you know, relationship did, is a lot of content writing that I don't think I would necessarily be happy with at this point.
Hmm.
I do
I
love
think that's
writing the,
very hard to do content. And I'm not even sure I know what it is, but it seems like it's really hard to do. You know.
well, some of it's just random content for random things. I got to pick and choose what I was writing for him. So there was a site that was kind of like outdoor adventure stuff. And I'm like, I've got this. Because I'm a
Yeah.
big hiker. I backpack, I hike, I love the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So I could write, gear reviews and why these are the best 5 hikes close to Denver. I could
Oh, I
write that
see.
stuff because it
Yeah.
interested me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I couldn't do something that I wasn't passionate about or something that I didn't have an interest in. That
Right.
would be very difficult. So I'd have to find a niche where I could work along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if I could ever get my blog monetized, that could bring in income. But
Right. Are
I
you
love
still
what I'm
doing the
doing.
blog?
I do, but I haven't been great about it. I
Uh-huh.
really need to get better.
Inconsistent, you mean? Yeah.
I've been very inconsistent. Yes.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
like to do better, but you know how life
I
is.
know. Yeah, I know it is tough. And then,
Well,
on that kind of thing, I go private. That's one thing. The other thing is I just don't know what to talk about, and I'm in awe all the time of people who are constantly just start saying, oh, yeah, I was in Wash Park and, blah, 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 blah. That would never even cross my mind. So I'm kind of in awe of that, content writing. It's like, oh my God, how do you do that? Yeah.
I
So
think so many of my things come like Sea Magic, for example, came to me. I visited Charleston, South Carolina, and I reconnected with the ocean. I'm a water
Mhm.
sign. I'm a
Right.
Scorpio. For a long time, I was very disconnected with my water element.
Hmm.
Um, and going back there, I just reconnected with the ocean. I get back and I'm super excited. So I messaged my publisher. I'm like, I really want to write a book on sea magic. And, just this whole outline just poured out of me.
Hmm.
And just like a lot of my articles, when I write ritual, I love writing ritual. I love writing spells,
Oh, do
incantations.
you? And there are quite a few in the Owl book. The only book I
Yes.
had was the Owl book. I did notice the sea. I just came back from the East Coast where I was, in Long Island on the ocean and in Jersey on
Mhm.
the ocean, and I do love the ocean,
Yeah.
but
Well, I'll have to get you a copy of that when it
oh, I'd
comes out.
love it. Yeah, I'd love it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I only got the Owl Magic because that is your latest book, right?
it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
So
that's what
that
I think
is,
was sent by your publisher.
yes, that is
Mhm.
the one. It comes out September 10th. It's
Oh,
available for
okay. I
pre-order.
thought it was
Pre-order
out.
now.
Yeah. So
Not
September
yet.
10th. Yeah.
The 2 books that are currently out are Cat Magic and Animal Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just got my advanced copy. So they do have copies
Right.
that are considered, like I said, advanced copies for, purposes of marketing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it doesn't officially come out till September 10th. So I'm trying to get people like, go on, pre-order. And I
I
have
was
some
going to
giveaways.
say they can pre-order. Can they pre-order on Amazon?
They can pre-order on Amazon if they send me proof of purchase via Instagram. I have some giveaways, and they're all on my
Oh, that's
Instagram.
great. Yeah, that's
Um,
great. And that's
yeah,
up until September to where it's actually out there.
yes. So I
Yeah.
have different giveaways that are coming at different times.
Mm-hmm.
So if they just check my thing, they'll be entered to win, various ones depending on when they order. But yeah, up until September 9th, you still have pre-order and a chance to win some great prizes and things like
Okay,
that.
I'm going to ask for examples of those giveaways.
So one of them already finished up, which the publisher they were actually doing. It was a little owl figurine with a witch hat,
Oh,
the
cool.
bookmark, and some journals and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
whole pack, and
Uh-huh.
we'll be announcing the winner on that soon. The one that I'm currently doing is an owl tarot deck.
Mm-hmm.
So that runs through August 15th. So when
Is
they
that
pre-order,
did you design that?
no, I
Oh,
wish
okay.
I had it in me to design tarot, but I do
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And
That's another
yeah,
hard one, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I my gift of writing, I believe it's a goddess given gift, and
Hmm.
it's the same thing with those people who are artistic like that. I am not artistic like that. By writing, yes, but not drawing and painting and things like that. I really am in awe of people who have that kind of talent for sure.
And boy, there are some real talented people out there. I
Oh,
mean, it's
absolutely.
amazing. Yeah. It's
Some of these
amazing.
decks that I have or I've seen, they're just absolutely stunning. They're just,
Gorgeous. Yeah.
yeah,
Gorgeous. I know Owl's your book coming out, but can we talk a little bit about cat?
absolutely.
Yeah, because I had a couple cats. I psychically watch cats. Well, I do a lot of animal communication and all of that.
Mhm.
But cats are fascinating on both sides of the veil. They don't even see
Yeah,
that there is both sides of the veil. To them, it's all one. Yeah. And when they
exactly.
pass, what I've seen, when they leave their body, they only move over about 8 inches. Nothing else changes as far as they're
Yeah.
concerned. I know. But tell me about cat magic or about
Um,
cat.
Cats, well, as you know, cats are highly magical beings.
Mm-hmm.
They were during all the craziness with witches back in the Middle Ages and, all
They're
that
they're
stuff.
actually put with witches a lot, cats.
They were.
Yeah.
So, I mean, cats and owls are very similar
Uh-huh.
in that many of those very uneducated people believed that witches could shapeshift into cats.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, a lot of cats, and that, the cat was the witch's familiar. It's
Right.
because the cat is a creature of the night. They hunt at night,
As is owl,
um,
right? Yeah.
as it are elves. So yes,
Yeah.
those two creatures have always been really, really tied to witches. They
And
also
before
believe that
you
witches
go too far, I want you to explain familiar.
are
Familiar.
familiar.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
yeah. But just going back, so cats were persecuted
Mhm.
right alongside witches.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's terrible. I did,
That's
isn't it? It's terrible for the witches too, but it's terrible about the cats.
Oh, it's actually all that information is in that book. It talks about how,
Hmm. In the cat book, yeah.
yes, they were persecuted right along with those ladies who were accused of witchcraft.
Hmm.
Um, it's the same thing kind of with owls. It's very disturbing.
It
Just
is,
that
yeah.
level of ignorance. But so animals come to us in different forms for different reasons.
Hmm.
So get to the familiar, but they come to us as messengers just to deliver a message.
Hmm.
And they'll stay till we get it. And I like to tell people, like, if you're not getting it and they're trying to give you a message, then ask them, let them know that you're not understanding. Ask
Hmm.
them to please give the message to you in a way that you can understand.
Yeah.
And then it'll come through a little bit easier. And then we have guides, animals that come to us as guides. They can stay for us, a little bit of time, a long time, but they teach us.
Hmm.
They show us, they can give energy, they can help with, healing and whatever we need. They're there to guide us through either our whole life or part of our life or whatever we need them for.
Hmm.
And then we have familiars.
Hmm.
Familiars are entities that have a covenant with a witch. It is a very specific bond. And that
And that's with the
familiar,
specific witch.
yes,
Yeah.
it is a bond. It is an agreement between this
Hmm.
familiar entity and the witch. And sometimes we're kind of unaware, but on a soul level, we know
Hmm.
that this familiar entity, they often will take the form of an animal. Um, and I've had this question come up, but our familiars can be pets,
Hmm.
but not all of our pets are going to be our familiar. You might have a cat, but it doesn't mean it's your familiar. It is
Hmm.
a very specific bond. Yes, you can love your dog, you can love your parrot, your hamster, your cat, whatever, but it doesn't mean it is a familiar. It is a deeper bond. They are there to protect, to guide, to offer magic. They can lend you energy.
Hmm.
Um, my cat familiar has actually come into the astral plane and retrieved me. I
Mm,
tend to
wow.
travel when I sleep.
Yeah.
She will
Yeah.
ground me and bring me back.
Oh, wow.
Um, she fits right alongside me, works magic. I have, I'm not going to say I was attacked, but I had three spirits kind of rush at me at one time, and
Hmm.
whoa, let's, move this along.
Yeah.
My familiar spirit, so she comes right out of her little cat body, shows up and was like, I got you. And
Wow.
it's that type of thing, is that familiar entity can, leave the physical cat or dog behind and come to your aid or to your rescue or come into the astral with you
Mm-hmm.
and then be right back into the little cat's body. It's a very interesting bond. It's a very interesting relationship. And it's completely different than anything you will experience with just a beloved pet.
Do all witches have a familiar? Familiar. Well, how do you say it? Familiar. It's a familiar.
Familiar.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Do all witches have a familiar?
No,
Okay.
it's and it doesn't mean anything about a witch who doesn't have a familiar.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, again, it's a bond, it's a
It's like
covenant,
having
an
a best
agreement.
friend. You're
Kind of.
blessed if you do, but you're not
Yes.
worse off if you don't.
Right. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything about that person
Mm-hmm.
or their ability to work witchcraft or magic. It doesn't mean anything about them on those lines if they don't have a familiar. It doesn't make them better because they do. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, it's an added bonus, I guess.
And where do you find your familiar? Or how do you know?
um, all of these, but well, except Sea Magic, the first three books, they really do talk about how you distinguish between, are they just a messenger, are they a guide, are they familiar?
Okay, and
Um,
that's cat, animal, and then sea?
Owl
Those four.
Magic has it in there
Yeah.
too. Sea
Yeah.
Magic doesn't really go in there. We do work with animals of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just, there's kind of a quick take, but it's not as detailed as the other three books on how they're working that.
Right.
Figuring out if they're familiar, there are spells in there, incantations, it's sitting with the animal. So if you think, let's just say you think your cat might be your familiar,
Mm-hmm.
and you have two other cats. So you sit with one and you feel the energy, you feel that exchange. You can sit with the energy of the other two and feel, how it's different. And again, there are spells in there like, if you really are my familiar, then let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get messages, you'll get signs that let you know that sometimes it's an intuitive thing. Sometimes it's really like it just kind of smacks you like, yes, I'm your familiar, you crazy person. Um like
Yeah.
of course, like of course. Um but it's really about sitting with the energy and feeling it and making that distinguishing I guess realization, like yes or no. It's
Mhm.
just, my dog that I love a lot, but it's not a magical creature. You will feel that magical energy in within that being because
Mhm.
again, it's the
They're
entity
they're
that is
different too.
inhabiting them. They
Yeah.
incarnate, yeah, that familiar spirit incarnates into that animal. So it
Mhm.
comes with them at the time of their birth. It's not like there's a familiar spirit out here and then all of a sudden it possesses your dog. It
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
work like that.
I was
It
kind of
comes,
wondering if it did. Yeah.
no, it's not a possession, but it
Okay.
kind of is in a
Yeah.
way. But it comes through them at birth. It's not something that takes over
Hmm.
eventually. It
So
comes
they
with
come
them.
into life to be a familiar.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, is it, if you have a familiar, is that for your lifetime and does it go past your lifetime? I mean, when they pass to the other side, are they still you're familiar, but just from the other side?
That's a great question. So, one of the ladies in my coven,
Hmm.
she has actually had two completely different familiar spirits.
Hmm.
The first one was a horse that was there to guide her for many years. And when the horse finally passed over the Rainbow Bridge, that familiar entity, went away.
Right.
And then many years later, she got a cat.
Hmm.
Then it was a completely different familiar entity that was her cat. So two totally different familiar entities, two
Hmm.
completely different energies. And you would think, well, yeah, one was a horse, one was a cat. It's about the energy of the
So the
familiar
horse
spirit.
familiar did not come back as a cat.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, my familiar has incarnated four different times: a cat, a dog, a cat.
Wow.
And it is
Persistent.
the same one. Well,
Yes.
during my early life, when I didn't know what magic really was, they were more of a protector, a
Mhm.
guide through, getting through that half of my life. That little thing that, kept like, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna
Mhm.
get there without really knowing what it was. And then when my when she was a dog, she passed away, it was really, really hard. I wasn't even practicing witchcraft. I don't want to say I wasn't a witch because I've always been a witch. I just
Right.
didn't
You
know.
just didn't recognize it yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She passed in the summer of 2017. And then that Samhain, so that October, her little spirit comes to me and says, "You have to let me go." Like, I don't
Mm.
know how. It feels like half my heart, half my soul is gone.
Right.
She's like, "I will come back to you. You have to," and I'm like, "I don't know how." She's like, "We'll work through it. You just have
Mhm.
to release that energy." So I had to release that energy of that familiar spirit that I was still holding on to that I didn't even realize I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so once I did that, her little spirit energy, we walked through this whole thing to do a release. And then I got she showed me, "Look, I was with you already. I've been this and this." And I was like, "Oh," and I've had tons of animals, along my life, all different kinds of animals. And she showed me, and "Look, I've been with you and I'll come back to you." And I kind of got this inkling that, she was going to come back as a cat.
Mhm.
And one of my Kevin sisters was like, "I keep seeing a cat around you." And I was like, "Oh, I think that my Oreo dog, she's gonna come back as a cat." And then like several years later, I kept going to like pet adoptions and looking online at cats because I felt really drawn, and nothing clicked. I go to Texas to visit a friend, and they
Mhm.
had this rescue group that was coming and doing an animal adoption. They open the back of the van and she sticks her little paw out at me, and I'm like, "Oh my god, there you are!" you know,
Yeah, you
Never-
recognized her immediately. Yeah,
absolutely. She
yeah.
recognized me, and I recognized her, and
Mhm. That's
it's that
fabulous.
that bond.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. So, and I'm gonna jump ahead to
yeah,
the owls because I don't want to run out of time with owls,
no,
and
you're
I
fine.
want to get a little C in there. So, so with an owl, now that wouldn't be can that be a familiar? Familiar.
Absolutely.
I do want to change that word, apparently, familiar. And I mean, can they be a familiar because they're not in your home? They're not like a
Mhm.
cat and dog are very consistent part of
Right,
your family. But
right.
what
They
about
can
an owl?
They can absolutely be your familiar. And it's interesting because just touching back the cat magic, that goes into big cats too. Not just
Oh,
the little
okay.
kitties that you keep in your house, but
Yeah.
you can have a lion not just as a guide, but as your familiar. And you're like, "Well, how does that work?"
Yeah.
It's
How
very
does that
similar,
work?
right? So it's the same thing with an owl. You might have an owl that lives in the tree in your backyard.
Hmm.
Now, just because
But
you have that,
you're not gonna have a cheetah or something living in your backyard.
no, but that's about the energy, because sometimes these familiar entities, they don't have to have a physical body. They do not
Oh,
have to be
okay.
corporeal. They can absolutely reside in the spirit realm only, because
Hmm.
it's more about the energy of that entity as opposed to them being here in the physical. It's working with a physical corporeal animal easier, sure.
Hmm.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be that way. With an owl, like I said, it could definitely be one that kind of comes around you all the time. It lives in the tree in your backyard. Or it just comes by every now and then. Maybe it lives miles away, but it comes to visit you.
Hmm.
And you just take notice. Uh, but then you learn how the same thing with calling any of the other familiars, like, are you my owl guide? Are you my just a messenger? Are you a familiar? And then creating and that bond with that spirit. Um, if an owl shows up and it just wants to hang out, doesn't mean you can't open your window and let that energy flow just a little bit
Hmm.
easier, and do workings. You call the energy in. There's spells in there about how to call upon that energy and how to bring it in, to your life, into your circle, and how to work with it on a metaphysical level, whether it's the owl in your backyard, or just on a metaphysical plane. So yes, they can absolutely be your familiar. It's just a little bit, takes a little bit more work.
But you can call on owl energy without the physical owl.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like you can call on any animal's energy, because you need the properties that their energy holds. Like mine, for example, confidence, the sun energy, that very, even stoic, that courageous, all those things. An owl, they can teach you how to, like, if you are studying for a test, call on that owl energy, because they can help you retain, not only absorb the wisdom and knowledge, but help you to retain it through whatever you need to get through.
Why?
So
why are they good at that?
well, think about what owls symbolize. They have long time been associated with wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah, that's true.
So you go to, let's say, Athena, Greek goddess of war. She also helped with strategy. So they would call upon her to help strategize. So if you want to, you call upon the owl of Athena, not the goddess if you're not working with the deity, but you can call upon that owl to help you see how things fit together in a strategy to win a game, how to win a pitch, or a sales, a sales pitch that you're doing or whatnot. But owls are also associated with Akashic records, past lives, and they are old creatures. They go back, thousands and thousands of years. We don't realize how ancient they really are. And they, like the goddess Hecate, for example, she stands at the crossroads and she can see in all three directions because she has three faces. She could see past, present, and future. So when you look
Who is that?
Hecate. She's the Greek goddess, the keeper of the keys.
Thank you. Apparently, I've lost all my education. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So obviously, I need a little owl memory and wisdom. Yeah.
But you think about, like, being able to see past, present, future, and owls are also it's not her most prevalent animal, but they also are associated with Hecate. And you have that knowledge that spans past, present, future. That's wisdom and knowledge that you can gain. So in little ways that we don't associate with how they're tied to wisdom and knowledge, that's how they became, associated with that. Athena, like, again, going back, she's, wisdom and strategy and all that. So it works along those lines of just holding that ancient wisdom and knowledge and being able to look at things a little bit differently.
And you talk about the wings of the owl. And tell me about that.
The wings.
I've never seen an owl fly.
Really?
No, I always just see them in a tree, just hanging out.
Their feathers are specifically designed for almost silent flight. So why is that good? Because their prey doesn't hear them coming. They're almost completely silent.
And their prey being rodents and mice and
snakes, rodents, all those little things.
Those creepy crawlers.
Yeah, their wings are designed for that. So you can ask the owl, and that's calling that owl energy for when you need that quiet, that stillness.
The stealth thing?
Yep. And how to go unheard or unseen. They have that ability to camouflage and stuff like that. The coloring of their feathers and wings. Like, you can look at a picture, and until the owl turns its head, or you're watching a video, you would never see it in the tree there, because they completely blend in with their surroundings. So they can help one to, put that veil over them so they're not seen, they're not heard. When you need to hide, call on that owl energy and help it cloak you.
Wow.
And the darkness around you.
What else does the owl bring us? Because you talked about the shadow self, when you're stuck and when you need to be moved forward. And
Yes,
I might just be picking up the stuff on the stuff I wanted to pick up on. I
yes.
might have just outed myself.
Well, they do. They reside in the darkness. With a couple of them being a little bit different. There's some burrowing owls. Um, the snowy owl is actually diurnal, means that they hunt during the daytime.
Mm,
But for the most part, owls are associated with the darkness. They hunt at night. Um, and that's kind of, what does that say about going into the darkness and how much power and knowledge can be found within that darkness? We look into our own darkness, those shadow selves that need to be brought forward. And owl can teach us how to do that, how to go within our own darkness. And I'm not going to say we need to bring it into the light,
mhm,
because I don't think that that's necessarily what shadow work is about. I think shadow work is acknowledging those dark parts of us and accepting them and
mhm.
how they fit into our lives as a whole. Not like, oh, let's just bring in the dark parts and make them all pretty and shiny. That's
Right, right.
that's not what it's all
But
about.
it's pulling you out of denial too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But going
yeah.
within our own darkness and finding those dark spots, those shadow parts, and you do want to shine the light on them so you can see them. An owl with their big eyes and their vision can help you see those things, those dark parts,
Hmm.
and really bring them into focus and be able to help you bring them as a whole into your life, so that you're your whole self and not just what you think people want to see.
And that's part of the fact that they can turn their head completely around.
That's being able to, yeah, to see in all directions, the past,
Yeah.
present, future, seeing, what is unable to be seen without looking at it at a different perspective.
Can the owl come in? So let's say if I have an owl sitting in my tree outside, I know, oh, wait a minute, pay attention to this.
Mhm,
Or I want to work on my shadow side, I'll call in an owl.
mhm.
Is there another time that I need to work on something, I don't know about it? How would the owl come in?
Um,
Am I making sense? Does that make sense?
so if you want to work with owls specifically, you can ask them with their clear vision into the darkness.
Mhm. But
Help
you
me
have
to
to
see
already
it.
know you wanna go there.
Right. So
And
if
then
you,
denial,
right,
as I mentioned. If
yes,
you're there, but you've gotta break it open.
right. So if you
And
know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
an owl doesn't show up on your tree.
Well, then maybe they're not the animal that you need.
Oh,
However,
okay.
if you want to utilize their energy, there's something you need to work on, but you don't know what it is.
Mhm.
You can ask them with your clear sight into the things that are hidden
I see.
into that
And your
darkness.
wisdom. Yeah.
Help me to see, yes, with your wisdom, with your keen
Mhm.
vision into the darkness that I cannot see. And then that's calling and utilizing that owl energy, their sight, their wisdom, their ability to go into the dark places. Because like a barn owl, they can hunt in complete darkness.
Mhm.
Some
Oh,
of the
yeah.
other ones need a little bit of light, but a
Uh-huh.
barn owl can hit its target in a new moon on a cloudy day in complete darkness, pitch black. They can hit their target.
And
They're
that's why they
phenomenal.
have those big eyes, right? They can
Yep,
see in the darkness. Now, is there a
absolutely.
specific way to work with an owl or with
Um,
owl energy?
I think it's about what each person needs individually,
Mhm.
because you can't say that there's one wrong way or one right way to work with the energy out. They have so much to teach us. And as just kind of, looking through the book,
Mhm.
um,
You
there's
have quite a few different, ways of working ceremonies, ways of working with
absolutely
owl. Yeah.
right.
One thing you always say is you need to, leave raw meat out. That's one
Those
thing
are
that
offerings.
that yeah, that took me a little while to think, "How am I doing that and not attracting everything else?"
Well, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but it is an offering. And it can even be something if you're working, let's say, just for with your owl on an energetic level and not in a physical realm. You can always just take a little bit of it, and it's like how people will leave offerings for the fae or for deity or anything else. You can just leave it on your altar.
Right,
Just take a little
right,
bit, leave it in a cup, leave
right.
it there for a few hours, meditate, whatever, and then you can discard it. But it's a respectful thing to
Right.
offer them that. It doesn't always have to be that. It could be, various things,
In
things
your
that kind
book,
of go
it
without
seems
symbolism.
important. It seems important to honor by leaving, something.
Right. And that is common in witchcraft practice and in shamanic practice.
Hmm.
It is to leave an offering, and it is just something as a thank you, to honor them. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your help. It's an honoring.
When you're finished working with the owl, does the owl not show up or the energy shifts? You can feel the shift? Or how do you
Yeah.
know?
Um, it's different for everyone.
Hmm.
Um, I feel their energy come in and I feel it leave. It may be a little bit more subtle for other people because sometimes it hits me like, whoa, the owl showed
Right.
up. Okay. Like, what
Yeah.
do we need to talk about? Or a different animal or whatnot. But it's sitting with it a minute, and it takes practice to be
Hmm.
able to communicate with animals, to feel their energy. And it is so much about trusting your own energy and being able to feel those subtle shifts. If a witch can cast the circle and feel the energy of it, they can feel when an animal comes in. It's
Right.
just a different type of energy. So it's about sitting with it and getting to know, what does that particular energy feel like? Call on the owl. What do you feel? I didn't feel anything today. Do it again tomorrow. And
Okay. If
then
the owl never shows up, do you think that you've completed that journey, that particular thing? Or
if
did they want to take a break and they'll be back later?
so if you keep calling on the owl and calling on the owl and you're just never feeling them show up, it
Hmm.
may mean that you don't need to work with that energy.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily that you're doing it wrong or that they're just not answering. It just may not be what you need in that moment.
Right.
And at that point, I would suggest to someone like, okay, I want to work with owl. I want to work with owl. I want to work with owl. I'm going to call the owl, call the owl, call the owl. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Over and over again, you get nothing.
Hmm.
It's just crickets out there. I would suggest at that time opening yourself up and then saying, okay, I'm not getting anything from the owl. What do I need right now?
Hmm.
Is there an animal guide or message that I need right now? And then just be open, because you
Right.
may get something entirely different. The zebra might show up,
What
something
does the
completely
zebra do
different.
for you? What's the
Um,
zebra? We're kind
I
of
don't,
coming to the end, but now I want to know about the zebra.
that was just completely random out of left field.
Okay, yeah.
Well, because
And
you think like
actually, we're
all the
coming to
zebras.
the end, so yeah. But it was like, oh, what does the zebra do?
It's your unique kind of self. Don't look for something that's not really there.
Mhm.
They say a horse is a horse is a horse until it's not, it's a zebra. So looking at things a little bit differently.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We are coming to the end. I want to make sure that everybody knows where to get hold of you. And you do work one-on-one as well as teach. And then also, of course, we talked a little bit about where to get hold of your books and all of that. So if
Yes,
you'd let me know, or let
absolutely.
everybody know where to get hold of you.
So they can find me on Instagram. It's Justa Mountain Witch, which is Justa, and then Mountain Witch.
Hmm.
I'm on, like I said, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I do have a YouTube, although I haven't been great about that
Hmm.
either. But I'm all of those places again, Just a Mountain Witch. And then my website is justamountainwitch.com.
Hmm.
All the books, so Owl Magic and Sea Magic are both available for pre-order on Amazon. Cat Magic and Animal Magic are already out, and that's Amazon US, UK, and Canada. Bookshop, Books a Million, Barnes and Nobles, all of those
Hmm.
places. But like I was saying, right now, if you go onto my Instagram, you will see that there are pre-order incentives and giveaways for people who pre-order and send me proof of purchase. So,
On the owl book, but
on the
not
Owl
on
Magic book.
but not on the sea book.
I will be
Sea
starting
magic.
that campaign here in just a little bit. Sea Magic doesn't come out until October, so
Okay.
I'll ramp up that campaign here in just a little bit, but not quite yet.
Okay. How many sea animals did you kind of visit?
Oh, a lot. Sharks, dolphins. Oh, one of my favorite is the anglerfish. They take you down into the abyss and you do this whole shadow work journey with the anglerfish.
Wow.
Um,
I don't even
yeah.
know what an anglerfish is. I am totally
Oh,
a city kid.
they're the crazy ones with the big mouth that have the lantern over the front
Oh,
of their
yeah, yeah,
head.
yeah. Yeah.
They live in the total darkness.
Oh, wow.
They're really cool. They're really hideous looking, but they're really cool.
Wow.
Um,
And they work like the owl works or just different?
Completely different.
Yeah. Okay. You
Yeah.
have to come back about the sea magic book.
Absolutely. I would be happy to be on here again. Yeah,
Oh, that's
but
great. Thank you so much. We do have to wrap it up. Thanks so much for being on. I've learned a whole lot and I've loved it. And thank you.
oh, thanks for having me, Barb. It's been such a pleasure to be here and chat with you.
It's been great. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.